Welcome back to the locker room where the BS stops and the analysis starts, and we have three of the most knowledgeable people talking to you about the stuff you care about. We are your hosts, Kyle Anderson.
B. Jones, live in the locker room.
Matt Hirsch, right here in the locker room.
And thank you to our sponsor, Rammer Jammer Beer. Go to rammerjammerbeerco.com, and you can find all the locations in the state where they're selling Rammer Jammer Beer. Also, t-shirts, koozies, posters, whatever you want, you can go online and buy it. That's rammerjammerbeerco.com. Right now, we're going to talk about the NBA. Playoffs are heating up. Some intense rivalries are going on. But the one that we've got to start out with is one that Brandon started to come in before the show talking about. That's the Indiana Pacers and the New York Knicks. Brandon, you're a Knicks fan?
Yes.
Where does this anger come from for the Pacers? Why do you despise the Indiana Pacers?
Have you ever seen the 30 for 30?
With Reggie Miller? Yes, I have.
You mean Cheryl Miller?
It didn't go.
Miller, you mean Cheryl Miller?
It didn't go any. Look, I've been a New York Knicks fan since. Okay, so I've always been a Knicks fan.
It's been a rough life since 1994, hasn't it?
It's been a rough life since I've been here. I mean, Bernard King ain't walking through that door. Or Walt Frazier, for that matter. They're the Pacers. There's nothing to like about them. I mean, we've had some great battles in the playoffs in the 90s. We got them in 2000. They're the Pacers. I mean, I've been hating the Pacers since Reggie Miller, Rick Smits. It doesn't matter. Hayward Workman, Travis Best. Hate them all. You know, Jalen Rose. No love for the Pacers.
Matt, if there's one team right now in the playoffs, or there's one team in the NBA you don't like, which one would it be? Or the one you hate or despise as much as Brandon does the Pacers?
I don't know if I hate or despise the team, but I'm not a Heat fan. I'm not going to.
I hate the Heat too.
I think a lot of people aren't going to root for the Heat. Now, me, I don't really care. I think it's funny.
I can't blame LeBron James for going to Miami. You know, I can't. But you're either a Heat fan or you're not. I think that's really the deal.
Because you brought it up, and I have to know this. What is the thing that people have? Why do they hate him so much? I know people have said, I didn't like it when he came there and he said, we're going to win this many championships and all this other stuff. But I'm like, well, think about it. He's going to a new place. What did they want him to say? Gosh, I really hope we can compete. I mean, you want your guys to say that. Like Auburn, when they hire their coach, I mean, they want their coach to say, we're going to win some championships.
It's almost like we just talked about the NFL draft here a few minutes ago. You can't. He's the one person that basically picked where he wanted to go. There's nothing really wrong with that, I guess. In real life, if I wanted to go get a job at another company that I liked better, what's stopping me from doing that? And I see where athletes should have that choice as well, but they don't, unless you're really, really good.
I mean, look at Peyton Manning in the NFL.
Yeah,
I mean,
the thing about it, and I didn't mean to cut you off, Matt.
No, it's fine.
I think the thing about it is LeBron is so good, and he's one of those people. He doesn't get into trouble. You don't hear about it any off the court antics. You don't hear about. He plays the game clean. He plays hard. He works hard. That rubs a lot of people the wrong way about superstars. Because most superstars, you go, hey, he's a great superstar, but he ain't that good of a person. So you always got that dig against him. You don't have that with LeBron. And I think that rubs a lot of people the wrong way. So any little thing that he does, they jump on it.
Now, the Heat right now are playing the Bulls. Matt, one of your favorite teams. Now, before anybody asks, Matt has always been a Bulls fan. It's not one of these things where, Jordan showed up, now I'm a Bulls fan. The thing is, with that series, people really do think the Bulls are going to push the Heat to possibly, all the way to a final game. In your honest
Brandon
opinion,
doesn't. We've talked about this.
Damn sure don't.
Yeah.
All right, what do you think's going to happen with that series?
I think they'll push it. I think that they'll probably split them at the United Center. Right now it's 1-1 while we're recording this. The Bulls just got manhandled at Miami. But I think that they'll probably split it at the United Center, and I think Miami will win. I mean, I'd say that, but I think the Heat will pull it out.
Chicago has a shot at winning one more game. After that, this lights out. You can get one more game. You might get one more at the United Center.
I think
it pains me to say this as a Knicks fan because I don't like Miami Heat either. You know, back in the 90s, we would fist fight with P.J. Brown and Tim Hardaway and Alonzo Mourning and Jamal Mashburn and Sasha Danilovic and those guys. So I hate the Miami Heat. It has nothing to do with LeBron. I've been hating the Heat since those days. But it pains me to say this. No one is competing at the level of the Miami Heat.
No, they're not.
They've won 44 out of the last 40.
Well, the thing that helps the Bulls, I think, is that I think they do have the formula to stop the Heat in their tracks.
Rough them up.
They stopped them. You know, their how many games was it they had the streak going on?
28.
Yeah, they stopped that. They stopped the home game winning streak here at the beginning of the playoffs. I think they figured out the formula is do they have the stamina to keep it going. And I think the thing that probably hurts them is I hope that last game that was just a blowout, I hope that doesn't take the wind out of their sails. I hope they don't rush Derrick Rose back too early. Now, I know he's been ready. I know that. But I think that if he's not ready mentally, they shouldn't bring him back. I know physically he's been ready. But if he's not ready mentally, don't bring him back. And I think that's where they could really make a mistake is if they bring Derrick Rose back in Game 3 or Game 4.
No, I don't think he'll come out. And like I said, the thing about the Heat, I've been watching them all year. They're so good that sometimes they get bored. So you'll see them beat, the Bucks by 1. But it's like after they have the wake-up call, Lord forbid you're that next team, you got a 25, 30-point drumming coming your way.
Well, see, the Heat kind of pulled the Pacers the other night. They got in Chicago's head. They got in Joakim Noah's head. They got in Robinson's head. And that got in Taj Gibson's head. And that really negatively affected the Bulls' play.
And
they couldn't sink shots.
And
your professional basketball players, they couldn't buy a bucket.
Hey, Nate Robinson's playing like an all-star right now. I think as far as the playoffs, he has to be Chicago's MVP.
Absolutely.
Now, going to the next game, the New York Knicks, Indiana Pacers, heated rivalry. It's tied up 1-1. Brandon, I'll go with you first. Where do you see that series going? Who do you think is going to win that one out?
It has to be New York. It has to be New York. But in order for it to be New York, we have to be smarter with shot selections. Carmelo and J.R. Smith were cold that first game. And our inability to score points in the paint is killing us right now. So we got to get Tyson Chandler going. We got to keep Shumpert going, who's doing well, kid out of Georgia Tech. We got to start nailing down some shots. And the biggest thing right now is going to be offensive rebounding. We're getting killed on the boards. Hilbert's doing an outstanding job for those guys. So we have to rebound and knock down the shots that we can get. And when all boils down to it, we have to defend. And I think locking in on Paul George and not letting Augustin beat you is going to be also the key in the series.
I hope I don't eat my words saying this. I haven't really paid attention to the Knicks and the Pacers because in the Eastern Conference, I don't think it matters. I think that the winner of the Bulls and the Heat, that's who you're going to see in the finals. And like I said, it's going to probably be the Heat. I hate to say it, but it's going to be the Heat and somebody from the Western Conference. It's probably going to be, I would say the Spurs, but they're having a tough time with Golden State, or I would say the Thunder, but they're having a tough time with Memphis. So, the Western Conference is really kind of where it's at right now. It's where the competition's at, but it's who's going to go up against the Heat. I think that's really it.
Now, one of the other matchups, like you were saying, the Thunder taking on the Grizzlies. The issue that a lot of people have had is the Thunder last year looked really good, and then they go all the way and they lose to Miami. But a lot of people said that was just going to be a heavyweight fight. This year, like you said, they seem to be struggling a little bit. How much of that, Matt, do you think is that they're going, look, we learned from last year, we're going to pace ourselves, and we'll win, but we're going to get up, but we're not going to put it all in getting there.
I don't think that's it at all. I think that they're not as deep as they were. I think that the fact that Westbrook's hurt, I think the fact that James Harden plays for Houston now, it's not the team that took on the Heat last year that looked as good as they did until they played the Heat. It's not the team that they had. It's Kevin Durant and everybody else.
Man, Matthew hit it right on the head. I mean, when you lose Westbrook to an ACL, you lose James Harden to free agency. Yeah, I think those two were good for 20 and 30.
Right.
You're taking 50 points out of the lineup. I think they have the ability with Martin, who can score. Who can be
when
a
you
scorer.
have Westbrook and Harden, you can't double Durant all the time.
No.
Now you can put two people on Durant and say, well, we've shut him down.
Yeah. So I mean, it didn't look good for the Thunder, but I don't want people to get it twisted. Memphis has a really good basketball team.
Yeah, they really do.
And I'll tell you someone who's playing well from down here in the SEC country is Tayshaun Prince.
Right.
On the defensive end, Tayshaun Prince, Zach Randolph is playing real well right now. Even Gasol, Mark Gasol, Memphis is doing well. And Mike Conley is one of the most underrated point guards in the league. So, hey, Memphis is a pretty good basketball team. I can see Memphis in the NBA Finals.
Yeah, I could see that.
Now, San Antonio, the Spurs, taking on the Golden State Warriors. Now, a lot of people know San Antonio, very, probably one of the oldest teams. They got a lot of, experience on their squad. But, they got into the game, and then the Thunder ended up taking them out in that last year. And a lot of people think that they could make a run. But from what you were saying, they're struggling a little bit with Golden State. Now, Golden State, I know people look, all right, it's Golden State Warriors, but they're better than people give them credit for. How much of that is the same thing as, hey, look, we're just looking and going, oh, it's the Spurs, they're supposed to win and get this far. And it's, no, the Spurs are good, but the Warriors are just as good as they are. Or maybe just a tiny bit better.
Right now, Golden State is the better team. Golden State is the better team, but you got to give the Spurs the edge because they've been there before and they know how to close. Looking at the series, it should be 2-0. It should be 2-0 Golden State right now. But that first game they couldn't close. Spurs get it in double overtime. I think right now, the way that Steph Curry is playing and shooting the ball, he's the best shooter in the game. Right now.
He's really what's going to change that series. The longer it goes, if Golden State can push it to 6 games, 7 games, I think the edge goes to Golden State because they're younger, they're fresher, and just those veterans that the Spurs have, I don't think they can go that long.
Now, one of the things, this is outside of the playoffs. Kobe Bryant has that injury. Turns out to be that he really messes up his Achilles tendon. He's gone. The Lakers have a bunch of injuries. They get swept in the first round. And then all of a sudden, this whole thing comes out with his mom trying to auction off all of his high school memorabilia and some of his early pro career stuff. And so he's suing his mom and suing the company that's trying to do it, saying, I never gave you any permission to do this. Somebody brought this up. Now, Peter Kua, he's a fan of the show, big Kobe Bryant fan. I've known him since college, and he loves Kobe. And so I asked him this, and he denied it, but I got to ask you guys. With all this that's going on, does it seem now that Kobe Bryant is quickly getting onto that train to to Shaquille O'Nealville? Like, you're going to start becoming more of a distraction, and you still can play, but your off-court stuff's starting to be a distraction, man. We can't have this anymore.
I don't think so. I mean, the Mamba's still the Mamba. He has a way, no matter what's going on. I think he went through one of the toughest things that an athlete can ever go through. Bouncing back from the situation up in Colorado. I think the Mamba's still the Mamba. What's going to be interesting to see how he deals with this Achilles tendon injury at 34 years old. That's what's going to be the interesting part, and that's what really has a lot of people eyebrows raised right now.
Well, I think a lot of it is, he hasn't really had to, play the role of. Well, let me reword this. He has played the role of team leader before. I was supposed to say he hasn't had to play the role of team leader. He has, but it's almost like he's turning from team leader to having to be a babysitter. That's really it. Especially with I say it with Dwight Howard. That's really, I think, where the distraction with the Lakers is with Dwight Howard, not with all the stuff that Kobe Bryant's dealing with right now. Because Kobe, like you said, he's proven he can deal with distractions. He's dealt with the situation that he had to deal with Colorado, in Colorado. But I think that the distractions are with other players. With the fact there's not a this has been kind of the theme for tonight. It seems like there's not a lot of team chemistry there. There's a ton of talent, just not a lot of chemistry.
How do you see the Lakers kind of fixing that? Because, like you guys are saying, Kobe has proven he's won the championships. He can be a team leader. Brandon, like you're saying, looks like he's going to come back from this Achilles injury, which most athletes would have probably said, hey, look, I'm 34, I've won enough, I'm done. But he doesn't want to do that. He still feels like, hey, I still want to play and I still want to go out there. What can they do to fix the situation?
I think Kobe Bryant will be back, and I think he'll be good. But I think the big question is that I'm not sure about, and Brandon, I want to get your opinion, and Kyle, you too. Is Kobe Bryant ever going to win another NBA championship?
I don't think with the pieces that he has in place in Los Angeles right now, no. All things being considered, not right now. I think you have to look no further than the bench with Dan Antoni. You look at how much the Knicks have improved since that we escorted Dan Antoni out of town. That tells you everything that you need to know. He did well in Phoenix when he had Amari Stoudemire and he had Steve Nash in his prime. He had some other players. I think the problem with LA right now is they don't have a defensive identity. And to be honest with you, Howard doesn't fit into D'Antoni's system. So you're trying to put that square piece in that round hole, and it's not working.
See, I think they could probably scrap everybody.
Yeah.
I don't think they're really going to be the Lakers that they've been until Nash is gone, Howard's gone. I'd say Kobe's gone. I don't think that they're what the Spurs will be in the next couple of years almost. They've aged out. There's not a lot of chemistry. It's not going to work.
I would love to see them go and get Brian Shaw as the head coach, who I felt should have been the head coach all along.
I'll tell you what, Mark Jackson at Golden State, he's doing fantastic, and he's not, I don't think, sold out to Golden State. So, he'd be a good coach for the Lakers.
I think one of the things that's probably, I agree with you that I think that they have to go in there, and they can probably keep Kobe, but they have to let him know, look, guys, we're being serious about this. We have got to come together, and we got to win. The problem, though, is if you do get rid of everybody, and that includes Kobe Bryant, how many fans that are Lakers fans would go, you just got rid of the guy that was the face of the Lakers, or that's the face that we've known forever. He basically, Magic Johnson, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, he's basically above them, and you just got rid of him, and now we're going to bring in a whole new crew. But I do agree. I think you can get rid of, like, Nash and a couple of the other ones. I do think you have to change coaches. It's just not working.
I don't think that it's going to be on them getting rid of Kobe. Kobe can leave when he wants, but I think it is more on him. Like, he's going to have to hang it up eventually. He really is. I hope that it's not on this, this situation where he's going out with an injury. But, as a Bulls fan, there were some years there where I didn't pay attention because Jordan left. and they didn't really have anybody. But it's all cyclical. That's the way it works. And you know,
the same thing with Boston when Bird left. Most people were like, okay, they didn't really care. Not until, they made that run and it was Lakers and the Celtics. But like somebody said, there was something different when the Celtics and the Lakers met each other in the finals. It wasn't the same when it was Bird and Magic. It was just wasn't because I guess because it was like, yeah, okay, Kevin Garnett and Kobe Bryant, that's cool, they're really good, but it's just not the same.
Well, that's like I say, they're not going to get rid of Kobe Bryant, but when he leaves, yeah, there's going to be a drop off. I mean, that's the way it is. That's the way the sport works, and
Right.
I'd say that's when you weed out the fair weather fans versus the people that are willing to stick it out.
The real Knicks fans.
Hey,
All Knicks fans are real fans. They've been
I'm
following
gonna
them long enough, haven't they?
I love the Bulls, but I got to tell you, there's a period there, late 90s, early
Dude,
2000s. I didn't really follow the
Dude, I
Bulls.
was a Knicks fan. We didn't go to the playoffs for the first time till last year. So, trust me, I understand. I think with Kobe, I think the thing that's really heartbreaking is how well he was playing before he got hurt. I mean, he was playing very, very well.
He was dragging the team with him.
Yes.
That might have been why he got hurt, honestly,
Yeah.
he was really putting a strain on himself.
Oh,
What did we say? He's 34?
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot to do on a 34-year-old body.
Now I heard of one of the people that we all work with. And he is in the group, but I don't want to say his name because I'm pretty sure people would hunt him down for saying this. When we were talking about how Kobe got hurt, and I was like, and the Lakers were struggling. He, without missing a beat, he looked right at me and said, "Well, you know what? He deserves it because him and Shaq used to fight about who was going to control the team. Shaq left, he stayed, and he's inherited this mess." I don't know if I agree with that because I don't really. I mean, yeah, Kobe wants to be the leader, but I can't really blame him for all the problems that the Lakers are having. That's not his fault.
It depends on how you look at it, the way that might have come across. It almost versus saying he deserves it because he had it coming to him, or if you want to take charge and you want to take the team, you're going to get all of it. You're going to get the good and the bad. So I mean, I can see either way of it.
And also, you got to look at the difference between the two. Kobe, aside from not having Phil Jackson now, look at what the death of Jerry Buss has done and who's taking over the team and who's making the decisions now. Because the man who's making the decisions looked at Phil Jackson and looked at Dan Antoni and say, "We need Dan Antoni." Yeah. And lets you know everything that you need to know. So yes, Kobe, he's inherited a mess, but I think he's done the best with that mess.
And people forget too, when Shaq left, it wasn't like Shaq went somewhere and you won a couple more championships. No, you got passed around from, what was it, Boston to Cleveland to Phoenix, and I think he even pitched a couple games for the Cubs. I mean, he was going everywhere. So, but speaking of Phil Jackson. Now, a lot of rumors have been circulating. People have been saying, he's going to take the Detroit Pistons job, and he's going to take the Brooklyn Nets job. He's going to do this. Do y'all think he really is going to take a job, or do you think no, he's enjoying retirement?
Phil said that he wanted to take a front office job. He never said anything about coaching. Man, I wish he would have took the Knicks job last year.
Phil Jackson's only going to go to a place he knows he can win.
Yeah,
that's true. Now, before we go,
Mike Woodson, I'm sorry. I love you. You're doing a great job.
But yeah, now one of the things we have to talk about now, the Brooklyn Nets, formerly the New Jersey Nets, leaves, goes to Brooklyn, have a good year. They get to the first round and they lose. So now they're looking for a new coach.
Well, that's a fantastic rebranding. I mean, I
Yes.
know they're still the Nets, but the moving to Brooklyn and just the black, white, and the gray, and just the way they've presented themselves, it's a lot more enticing as a fan to be a Nets fan than, they're the New Jersey Nets. That's
Right.
not a big deal.
Well, and it's funny too because then you look at the Denver Nuggets, have a great regular season, and then they get into the playoffs and they suffer a very frustrating loss. Those two programs, all right, now the question is, are they really making progress? And they're turning the corner, they're going to start being more competitive, or can some people look at it and go, you had a good year? That's all we can say.
with Brooklyn, I don't understand what was the point of letting Van Gundy go, the interim coach, because he wasn't a problem. He was 54-17 as an interim coach. Wasn't his fault. I think what Brooklyn did with the color scheme and everything, it looks like Jay-Z's Dynasty album all over again.
That's what they were going for. That's what he was going for.
Yeah, so it has that.
He was part owner until middle of the season.
Yeah, so it has that Jay-Z Dynasty album. It's the rock, type feel to it, and you know what? That appeals. And it's got a lot of people on board.
I don't want to say the Nuggets are heading in the right direction. They're good because was it George Karl? So they're good because of George Karl. That's really it. One of the greatest coaches to ever coach in the game. Who I don't think he's won a championship. Has he? Probably one of the greatest coaches to never won a championship.
Him and Jerry Sloan.
And that's really what's making Denver right now. It's not, they're not that marketable of a franchise, I would say. But George Karl is a great coach. If George Karl was at, another one of these places like
big markets,
not even a big market. If he was at San Antonio, if he had some of the sheer talent that some of these places have, if he was at Brooklyn, what'd be going on?
Yeah. Well, think about it. Your mascot's a nugget. I don't want to be a nugget. I don't want to be a net, but I don't want to be a nugget. Well, come on. Why can't the Denver Avalanche or something, or the Denver Rams, or
what part of the chicken does the nugget come from?
I don't know. I just, and is it a golden nugget? Is it a brown nugget? What kind of nugget are we talking about here?
Hopefully golden.
I would hope so. Guys, as always, great show and great job. And stay tuned because we're going to be coming more and more often with updates on the NBA. And before long, Matt wants to do a show on the NHL. Don't know if that's going to happen, but we're going to try to do one.
Go Blackhawks. Hey, shout out to George Karl, NBA Coach of the Year. He deserves it.
Oh, I thought he was a comedian. That's George Karl.
Is it George Karl?
Brandon, go ahead and take us out, man.
Hey, we out.
You hate the Pacers?
Yes.
The Pacers?
Yes. I hate the guy that stitches.
You hate the car, not the guy.
I hate